What is up, guys? This is Lintheo coming to a discussion video today about the erratas that have happened to these banned cards that are around. Now, in the OCG, it's kind of basically confirmed, and it's something that I'm kind of worried about. And worried not maybe because of the reason that you might think, but I'm going to do a discussion on the cards themselves, and then in another discussion, in another video, I'm going to talk about how these cards are being errated, I think, for the wrong reason. So discussion, we'll just go through them and kind of talk about these new cards that are kind of been errated and my opinions on them. So first, Sinister Serpent. Its new effect is you can only use the effect of Sinister Serpent once per turn during your standby phase. If this card is in your graveyard, you can add it to your hand. During your opponent's next end phase, banish one Sinister Serpent from your graveyard. Now, Sinister Serpent was known as the most recyclable card ever. These cards that kind of had the neg 1 effect just basically meant that it just didn't happen. It was just a 1-for-1 because you discard the Sinister Serpent and then you got it back in your next standby phase. You can't do this as much anymore, obviously, because the turn you add it to your hand, if you then use it for a discard effect in your turn or your opponent's turn, it's going to get banished. Now, the ways that you can get around it are basically just kind of keep hold of it and such, but it's kind of very difficult because once that effect is in place, it means that it's going to be there. Like, you would have to somehow do it during your standby phase or something like that, and that means you can only really use it in one very specific phase. And it makes it very difficult to use. Now, you can still use it, and technically you can get 2 uses out of it. And use it when you've got it in your hands, and then you can use it again once you get it back in your standby phase, but it just kind of makes it difficult to use and not really that great. Exchange the Spirit, the one that we never saw at all in our TCG because it was that borked. You can only activate one exchange of the Spirit per duel. If each player has 15 or more cards in their graveyard, pay 1,000 life points. Both players swap cards in their decks with their graveyards and then shuffle the decks. So Exchange the Spirit OTK is no longer going to be a thing at all anymore with this, because basically the whole point of the Exchange OTK was you would burn your deck out of cards and then you would set this in your opponent's turn, flip it, and they have no cards that they can draw anymore. So it kind of means that that is gone. While this card never saw the TCG, I'm quite glad, because it was one of those that were just so broke, I don't know why they even did it. Temple of the Kings, another one that we never saw. You can only activate the effect of Temple of the Kings once per turn. You can only activate one trap card you control the turn it was set. You can send both this card and one face-up Mystical Beast Circuit to the graveyard, special summon one monster from your hand, deck, or one fusion monster from your extra deck. So the original effect was basically the controller of this card can activate traps the turn they are set. So you can basically go, Temple of the Kings, set Reckless Greed, activate Reckless Greed, set, so on and so forth. So Exodia OTKs are very big with this in the OCG, and with Mystical Beast Circuit as well, it just meant that you could summon something with no cost at all. Because you would send those to, obviously that's technically the cost, but you could get anything from your extra deck, from your hand, or from your graveyard. Now, back then, there were only really fusions that were used. The new errata text is that you can only get a fusion monster, so it kind of makes sense. And this card is a lot more balanced now, in my opinion. I think if it does come to the TCG, it can see some play. It doesn't really matter, but I don't think it will be used because Circuit, I think, is level 6 or level 5. It's not the greatest monster, but, you know, for a free summon, it could be considered useful. Crush Card Virus. Tribute one dark you control with 1,000 attack or less. Check your opponent's hand and all monsters they control, and destroy all monsters 1,500 attack or more. Then, your opponent can destroy up to 3 monsters with 1,500 attack or more from their deck. After you activate this card, all damage your opponent would take until the end of the next turn becomes 0. Wow, Crush Card got fucking raped. Crush Card, we all know that was basically you flipped over the Sangan, you got the search off Sangan, you destroyed all monsters in your opponent's side of the field and hand that had 1,000 attack or more, and for the next 3 turns you looked at what card they drew, and if it was a monster 1,500 attack or more, it was destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Now, this has been completely destroyed. Not only does your opponent have the choice if they want to send anything, but it's up to 3 and they choose. Now, if this ever came to us, it doesn't really make much sense why someone will play it, because your opponent can effectively plus off the effect of your card. Crush Card Virus, you activate it against someone, look at what they're doing, oh, they're playing Shadows or they're playing Burning Abyss. Not that that would ever happen, because you would never do that ever. Because why would you let your opponent get free pluses? But they could go, you know, I'll send Graph and Seer and Scarm or whatever and just get all the effects off. It negs you in the end of it, and it makes no sense. While some people, if this did come back while Burning Abyss were a thing, might put it in there because it's easy access to the tour guide, can send off the Scarm, so on and so forth. It, to me, has just been, the pedigree's gone. It's not the same anymore. Ring of Destruction, the penultimate one, can only activate one Ring of Destruction per turn during your opponent's turn. Targets one face-up card your opponent controls whose attack is lower or equal to your opponent's life points. Destroy that face-up monster, and if you do, take damage equal to that monster's original attack. Then, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage that you took. So the biggest thing about this, well, the biggest couple of things actually, because this has got a really bad errata, is the fact that you can no longer burn someone for higher damage than they have life points. You can do equal, but that's going to be very difficult in itself. Now, technically, it'd still be considered a good removal card, but there are some important things you need to know. There are no longer OTKs where you attack, then Ring of Destruction, because one, you can't kill them, and two, it has to be in your opponent's turn. The next very important thing that some people have actually missed is the fact that you take the damage first, and once that bit resolves, then they take damage. Now, why? This is because Konami don't like draws. Ring of Destruction was a great card to pull out draws, just to kind of, if you're in a bad situation, you want to end it, or you knew that you were going to lose, Ring of Destruction will bring the game to an end. This is no longer a thing, because if you both have, say, 2,500 life points, and you're destroying a monster with 2,500 attack, you would die first, and the game would end. There is no draws with this card anymore. And then the big one, Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End. I'll say this now, this errata is bad, and when I say bad, it means that the card is still broke. You cannot normal summon / set. Must be special summoned from your hand by banishing one light or dark monster from your graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by any other ways. During the turn that you activate this card's effect, you cannot activate other effects. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points, send all cards on the field and in both players' hands to the graveyard. Then, inflict 300 damage for each card your opponent has sent by this effect. The erratas. First one, you can not activate card effects in this turn when you activate this. If you want to activate Chaos Emperor Dragon, that's the only thing you can do that turn. You can't activate a card, then activate it. It doesn't say after this card's effect. You can only activate Chaos Emperor Dragon that turn, and if you've already activated an effect in the standby phase, maybe Treeborn Frog, for example. I don't know why you would, but you never know. You cannot activate Chaos Emperor Dragon's blowing up effect. The next thing is that damage that your opponent takes is only from the number of cards that they have sent times 300. Now, Chaos Emperor Dragon has been one of my most favorite cards for a long time. I played it back in the day. I was in that format. As I said, I've been in basically every single format in this game. Chaos Emperor Dragon, with this errata, is still a fucking unhealthy card. The card is ridiculous. Now, what a lot of people can't seem to grasp, and I'm not entirely sure why, because you can get it from when you read the card, is the fact that you can still attack and then activate this card's effect in main phase 2. There are many, many ways that this card can be utilised, and many, many ways that it will break the game again. Chaos Emperor Dragon, back in the day, was used mainly, and a lot of times, just to wipe out your opponent and then Yatta lock them. That was a very, very common way that people would actually kill someone. A lot of the times, it was just used as a, yeah, burn you and blow up, attack, you know, game. What happens when Chaos Emperor Dragon resolves its effect? No player is left with any cards. You are top decking. That is an unhealthy game state. A lot of people have been saying that you can just summon Denko Seka, special summon Chaos Emperor Dragon, attack, blow up. That is one thing you can do. That is quite a painful thing for someone to go up against. Chaos Emperor Dragon is a very, very unhealthy card. I really hope that that never comes out with us. I just don't want it to even happen. Although I love the card and I'll play it, it causes so many problems that I can't even fathom it right now. It's just not good. We look at a deck that can play Chaos Emperor Dragon. What else can they play? Well, Bloodluster Soldier's at 1, and Chaos Sorcerer's at 2. You have 4 Chaos monsters. We are going straight back to the Chaos Age. That is ridiculous. Those decks are ridiculous. A lot of people say that Chaos Emperor Dragon isn't as good anymore because there are effects that can stop it, and there weren't as many back in the day. So, by that logic, every card that ever comes out now, if it is an effect, it can be stopped. We can't look at cards like this in that way because it clouds your judgment, in my opinion. You need to look at the card's effect, the base card effect. This card, for 1,000 life points, can send everything from your hand and your side of the field to the graveyard, including your own, of course, but you are activating the effect. You are doing the damage to your opponent, and it is just brutal. The card itself should never come back. Out of the erratas, it's interesting because there are some that have been completely negged and completely nuked, like Crush Card Virus. Then there are some that have been moderately kind of touched, like Temple of Kings, and then others that have really not affected the way that you're going to play it, Chaos Emperor Dragon. These erratas are a little bit worrying for me because I feel that Konami are going to get very gun-ho with the fact that, oh, well, this card's been on the ban list for ages, so let's, you know, just change how it works. Pot of Greed's been on there for a while, change it, they only draw 1 card. I'm going to do a discussion on that because it's a very long video that will come out of, and there's a lot to talk about, so just keep an eye out for that. But I want to know what you guys think of the actual erratas. Do you think it is healthy for this to happen? What do you think of them? And do you ever think that if these cards do come in back into the OCG with the erratas that they've had, can they be a sustainable thing? And will they not just break the game again? So as I said, let me know down in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. I should catch you guys later.